I am here in studio with the county entomologist, Blake Dinius. Thanks for stopping by today. It's the first time we've met in person. We've spoken over the phone many times, but I'm so glad you could come in studio today. And I have to say, you are the first guest in all the years I've been here that has brought a little, like a stuffed animal of a tick. So I appreciate that. and that's here what we're to talk about. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here finally and finally get to see you. It's awesome. Thank you.
That's terrific. Now, I'm talking with you because, speaking anecdotally, I've noticed this season, right around now, tick bites or ticks around or ticks on my dogs, ticks on me. It seems to be, the numbers seem to me up. Am I imagining it?
Well, you're not alone in this, and we've been seeing some numbers coming out through the CDC, through the Department of Public Health, that there are indeed more people that seem to be experiencing tick bites or maybe coming down with more tick-borne diseases. So it's definitely an outlier. It's definitely a trend this particular year compared to, say, the past 5 or 6 years.
Is it because of all the rain? Isn't it rain more than, say, cold temperatures that really can affect the population?
Ticks, especially what we call the deer ticks or black-legged ticks, are very sensitive to moisture and humidity. If you drop that moisture below, say, 82% or so, the ticks cannot survive for very long. So anytime you have this, the wet weather we've been experiencing, the frequent rain, even though there hasn't been a lot of total accumulation, we've had several frequent rain events this year, especially if, Saturdays, we kind of know that.
Yeah. Like
and that's
14, 15 Saturdays.
Exactly. So that's going to increase tick activity. It's going to allow them to survive under conditions that they might not normally be able to survive in. So that's going to contribute towards those frequent tick encounters.
Now, the types of ticks that you might see here in Plymouth County, you're talking about when you say black-legged ticks or deer ticks, are those the little teeny ones that look like the tip of a pencil?
Yes, I think what you're referring to are the nymph stage for the deer ticks, which are typically active from, I start seeing them right around mid-April, and we're still seeing them now, even in July, but they will start to trend downward as we approach August.
And then the dog ticks, those are the bigger ones, right?
Yes, the dog ticks are what a lot of people used to refer to as the wood ticks growing up.
Okay.
Those are much bigger, they're easier to see, they're a brownish red color. But we also have the Lone Star tick I have seen here, especially the southern portion of our county. I've been seeing that Lone Star tick, and that's the tick that a lot of people are talking about on the Vineyard and Nantucket. And we're keeping an eye out for another tick called the longhorn tick, which we have seen.
It's all coming up from Texas?
I know, it's so funny names, right?
Do they go with a little Star of Texas on them?
It's the way that they look, the longhorn tick, Hemophysalis longicornis. And that tick we have seen on the Cape and in the Berkshires. I haven't seen it here in Plymouth County yet, but I do expect to see it soon.
Now, speaking of Lone Star tick, those are the ones that I've heard, and again, fill me in if, again, I'm just going anecdotally. I know that the other ticks I've heard that they have to be on you for a certain amount of time and, actually biting you to inject any of the, parasite or toxin into your skin. But I've heard the Lone Star tick, if it bites you, can trigger a reaction in under an hour?
The type of reactions that you will get are going to be dependent on the type of pathogens that you're looking at.
Okay.
So something like Lyme disease, for instance, and when we look at some of these data coming out, we haven't seen those particular pathogens like Lyme disease, babesiosis, anaplasmosis, the agents that cause those. We haven't seen those transmit to animals in about under 24 hours or so, or 36 hours in some cases. But there are other pathogens that we have on our radar, ones that are much more rare. One, for example, Powassan virus. We have seen deer ticks, dog ticks, and Lone Star ticks transmit those. But the one that we have here is Powassan virus. The most common one we have here is Powassan virus lineage 2, which we refer to sometimes as deer tick virus. And that tends to be more strongly associated with the deer tick than any other tick. So, but the Lone Star tick can transmit. It has been associated with something like alpha-gal syndrome, and we're not really sure how long that would take to transmit yet. It's possible that that's more of a quick transmission, or it could be longer. I'm not sure on that.
And that alpha-gal syndrome, is that the one where you supposedly can't eat red meat and maybe something else?
Yes, that's the one that a lot of people are calling the allergy to red meat, but it's really any mammalian products except for those associated with humans and old world monkeys and apes. So a baby, for instance, would be fine nursing from breast milk, but could not drink cow's milk, for instance. And there are so many other mammal-related products: cheese, bacon, gummy bears,
all the good
Jell-O,
stuff.
a lot of good stuff, yes.
Oh my gosh, and you know, it's interesting, is I had a tick bite last year, and instead of testing me for one thing, I know they did the full screen, and I saw all these names. Thank goodness they all came up negative. Now, we talked a little bit off air, and you had a very good point, because you always hear, you know, if you get a rash, or they talk about this bullseye rash, it's good to do more than just look at it, especially kids. You said take a picture.
Absolutely. This is something that I highly recommend. If you have any rashes, now it could be a patch of dry skin, who knows, right? But you take a picture of it. It's free. Everyone has, you know, cameras on their phones nowadays. Take a picture of it, because if you start feeling like you have flu-like symptoms or start feeling sick, that's something good to show to your doctor, because most people who have Lyme disease, they may or may not remember being bit by a tick at that point. But that rash could be indicative of something like Lyme disease, and that's something that you could show your doctor. And without that photographic evidence, your doctor is just going by what you say.
That's a good piece of advice. Now, what about prevention? You know, they talk about certain things that you can spray on your clothing or spray on your skin. What do you recommend?
My primary set of recommendations come down to three things that I really try to focus on. These are all focused around personal protection. The first thing is wearing proper repellents on your clothing and your skin, and these are going to be your EPA-registered repellents. Things like DEET are very common. So OFF is a brand that typically manufactures DEET. We recommend about 20% or so. But even 7% is a lot of protection. So if you're someone you don't want to have a large exposure to chemicals, maybe dropping that down to 10 or 15% DEET. Picaridin is another repellent that's great. Oil of lemon eucalyptus, and another one that's very uncommon called IR3535. That can be found in some products. So that's something you would do every time before you go. That's number one, right? Number two is something I recommend doing monthly on about a monthly basis. This is permethrin. So that's different than the repellents. That's a treatment for your clothing, fabrics, garden gloves, backpacks, hiking boots, any type of fabric. You would want to apply this once a month. It's good for about 6 weeks or 6 washings. Also, any pet protection that is monthly, you want to do that, because protecting your pets can protect you as well.
Absolutely.
And then the final third thing is checking yourself daily for ticks. So those three things are what I recommend.
And I think which I always mispronounce, the pyrethrin, isn't that made from carnations? So it's not something that's some huge chemical.
It is still a synthetic chemical. It's derived from something called pyrethrins, which comes from chrysanthemums, but it is not all natural. We've really Frankensteined and kind of messed with it, made it more stable, more potent. But it is a very, very low dilute concentration of this stuff. So even though we have taken it, made it more stable, more concentrated, it's incredibly dilute. You would apply it on the outside of your shoes or the outside of your clothing, so the risk of exposure is very low.
And Blake Dinius, you have a lot of really good information about ticks and how to protect yourself. What kinds of websites will you refer people to go to if they want to get back and look and listen to and look at more at this advice you've got? It's a lot of good information here.
One of the best websites that you can go to, and there is a lot of information, so it might take a lot of kind of going through and checking it out, is Tick Encounter, and that's run through the University of Rhode Island. So all of the information is going to be based on science, very accurate information, great website. You could always reach out to me through my Facebook account at Plymouth County Extension.
And spell your name.
My name is Blake Dinius, Blake. Last name is D as in David, Inius.
That's awesome. And I know that if somebody is listening to this and tomorrow finds, oh my goodness, I got bitten by a tick, what's your first piece of advice for them?
I recommend proper removal, pair of tweezers, firmly grasp it. Don't try to jerk or yank. The speed is not, getting it off as quickly as possible is not as important as getting it off properly. And so you want to try to get off steady pressure, try to get the entire tick. If what a lot of people call the head breaks off, that can result in a skin infection, but that's not going to continually transmit any of these tick-borne diseases. You can try to dig out that part, but it's really just an inert object like a splinter. It can cause, again, a secondary skin infection. Clean it off. And then I recommend saving the tick and notifying your doctor if you start feeling sick, right?
That's great. And again, tell us it's tick encounters
Tick Encounter.
at Tick Encounter singular, and that's from the
Singular.
University of
University of
Rhode
Rhode
Island.
Island.
Some good advice.
Great information.
Oh, we're going to put this interview up online, not up online, but up online. See, I've been around damn it, create too much these terrible puns. But I think you've got a lot of good information here, and we really appreciate you coming in today.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Again, that's Blake Dinius. He's an entomologist, not epidemiologist, but an entomologist with the county here in Plymouth County. A lot of good information. Thanks so much for joining us.